Hi, everyone. I'm Elysabeth Alfano. It is the final plant-based business hour live from Dubai, COP28. It's the first COP where we've been talking about food systems transformation, food and agriculture day today, day 11, December 10th from Dubai. I wanted to talk to the man who really has done so much for the last 6 years to try to bring food systems transformation to the negotiation table at COP28. We really owe you so much. Director of UN Affairs at ProVeg, Raphael Podselver. Thank you for being with me.
It's a pleasure. Great to be with you, Elysabeth.
You're so wonderful. Okay, really, I cannot say enough about this person who has moved the needle perhaps more than everybody realizes. It is the last day of COP. Let's talk about what progress has been made, where we are, what would you like to see more of. Let's start with what has happened thus far.
I think a lot has happened, like usually I wouldn't take notes after a COP because nothing happens on food systems and, like you don't really have to, you try to do things, to have side events, to have this and that, to engage with negotiators. I have to say a lot happened on food. We had the Emirates Declaration to start with, I think on day 2 of the COP, on food systems, on sustainable agriculture and resilient food systems. It's a very important tool signed by over 140 countries because it's kind of like forcing or like really encouraging very strongly countries to integrate food systems transformation in their nationally determined contributions, in their climate plans. So that's extremely important. We had like on day 3, I think, like so one day after the Emirate Declaration on sustainable agriculture, on climate and health, sorry. So like that was like the health declaration that was really good because it, already like pushed for a shift towards healthy, sustainable diets in the second paragraph. So it's also very, very important and signed by also around 140 countries. We have like, we're still waiting to see if food is going to, be part of the global stocktake. So kind of like a very important tool and kind of like the main topic of this COP. We're hopeful that it's going to make it. We just heard like, some countries like Rwanda, Germany and others that really said that we have to integrate food in the global stocktake if we want to really achieve the Paris Agreement. So that was really good. I think, the FAO roadmap was published today with a lot of mentions of healthy, sustainable diets and many things. I think it missed a little bit the point on alternative proteins and protein diversification, which should play, in my opinion, a much bigger role. But it's already like very encouraging to have a tool like this one, like the FAO roadmap. And we know also the complexity of having like, like all the countries, the different stakeholders from the FAO like behind that. So it's also a very important tool. The agricultural negotiations themselves, I would say very disappointing. The Sharm el-Sheikh joint work, we didn't really achieve anything else than procedural conclusions. So like it was, I think, very, very difficult, but we know that it's been also very difficult in Bonn before that. And finally, I think, it was also very nice to see that, it's a COP where you can have lunch, where you can eat, because we campaigned very hard on making sure that the catering is more plant-rich, more plant-based, that there is like, options for everyone. And this is really good to see because I think it's also more affordable than last year. So it's also something that is very important as we don't, you have like, delegates from all around the world that cannot always afford like a 15 euro sandwich. So like, it's really good to see that there's been progress in both the quality, the affordability and the sustainability of the food served that is much more plant-based because like the presidency committed to have, I think, 2/3 or almost 2/3 of the food served vegetarian, vegan. So that's a very good progress and also like very important for the UN, I think, to walk the talk and to also show that, we're eating more sustainably at a climate conference.
Yeah, I didn't even get to take everybody on a food tour and I wanted to. I have had plant-based kebab. I've had plant-based shawarma. There's Beyond Meat here. There's Impossible Foods. So there's bowls and salads and wraps and burgers and really it's all there. It's great. So I've been happy about that. I think actually now we're at 150 countries that have signed the declaration, give or take. So it keeps mounting, which is wonderful. Rwanda and Germany, I think this is fascinating. Germany, I would have guessed, but Rwanda really pushing hard for food systems to be in the global stocktake. Why Rwanda?
I haven't followed the GST directly, like, in the room, etc., and like the discussions, but I think it was kind of an evidence that, when you talk about climate change, you have to talk about food systems, agriculture, consumption, all these things. So I think it's kind of like also a general trend that we're seeing. We started with having a few side events on the side with civil society and things. Now it really made it, to the agenda. We have a food day today, as you mentioned. We have around 198 side events today only on food, including ours. So like it's a lot of discussions. But yeah, it's kind of an evidence, the IPCC also reminds us that without fundamental shifts in the consumption, especially of proteins, we will not achieve the Paris Agreement, even if we would phase out fossil fuels tomorrow. So it really shows the importance of food systems in this discussion. And I think, it's been something that has been at the beginning seen as a little bit sensitive or this and that. But again, it's not about, telling people what to do or like banning this or that. It's about like really also creating a level playing field about like, about whether it's subsidies or like, investment in R&D, many aspects where we really need to invest in our food systems and allow for a just transition, because, we really want to take everyone with us, from farmers to tech startups to policymakers. And I think it's a really good start and very encouraging. Of course, we would have hoped much more, clear language around protein diversification, promoting alternative proteins in general, sustainable proteins, whatever you want to call them. But like, it's really like about like shifting, away from our over dependency on animal sourced foods, because we had 90 kilograms in France. I don't know about the US per year, but it's just like
281 pounds of meat a year per person. And I'm not eating any meat, so someone's eating more.
I don't know, okay, about pounds, but like, yeah, it's like definitely like, way too much. And it's like also like unfair. We need to rebalance the intakes. We need to take food security seriously. We have over 800 million people that suffer from like malnutrition or undernutrition. So like, there is really like something wrong with the way we're consuming, with the way we're eating. And I think it's really like being recognized by, most of the stakeholders today at the UN. So it's really like a big victory after like, 6 years where we're used to more like getting laughs when we talked about food and diets and alternative proteins or protein diversification. So it's really good to see that now it's really on the table, but we need action now. So
to me, it was amazing. Let me know if you feel the same. Last year, I couldn't get anyone to talk to me about food systems transformation at COP27 in Egypt. I feel like we skipped a beat. Not only did food systems transformation come to the table, but it's all people are talking about, and they're talking about action and execution. Do you see the same?
Yeah, I see, of course, in this specific context and with all the discussions, of course, like, about the country in which we are, like, and the dependency on fossil fuels and many things, it's kind of like evident. But I think there is also like, serious acknowledgement by most of the stakeholders that, we have like more and more reports. UNEP just published a report 2 days ago. I haven't even had the time to dig into that, but like, it's really like very encouraging. And I think, yes, that, the team around the presidency, the food team, etc., did a really good job in really trying to include everyone in the discussion. And it's really being taken seriously. So it's extremely encouraging, because, of course, with 1/3 of total emissions, you cannot just skip it. So that's a good.
I feel the same. Not only was food systems transformation on the agenda today, but it's been peppered throughout. Every day there have been food system transformation events, panels, meetings, and it's been talked about from all angles. The healthcare costs, the biodiversity loss, the deforestation, even some talks about pandemic risks, certainly about nutrition and food insecurity. So it's, and of course, soil and farmers. It's been talked, so regenerative and making healthy soil again. And then all the climate impacts from food. So it's been talked about at almost every angle, including finance. So I think for me, one of the bright spots was to see Geeta Sidta from the World Bank, who's the director of the food programs there, talk about only 2% of global tech funding goes to food systems transformation. But as Raphael just said, it puts out 30% of the emissions. So it should be getting 30% of the funding. It currently doesn't. The amount of funding needed is between 300 and 400 billion for the next 10 to 15 years. So we're going to see if people are going to pony up. What do you think about actually the money coming to food systems?
We'll have to see. I'm like, I'm cautious, because I think that, it's, we've seen like the discussion, etc. But I really think that it's the key, like the everything around, whether it's subsidies, investment, etc., is what is going to allow us to move the needle, creating incentives for farmers also, and having like real programs that allows them to thrive in producing more plant-based products. So I think, this is really something that we'll have to keep an eye on, that, because at the moment we have a lot of declarations of like promises of this and that. We need now really action and policy, and shifting like, the financial flows in general around food systems. We, the Emirates Declaration recognize it very clearly, that we have like this huge problems around subsidies that are not, that are not going in the right direction at the moment, especially in the EU and in my region. So it's something where we really have to keep an eye on, because at the moment we have a lot of like very good talk commitments, and this is important to have countries really like also signing on to that, but we really need action now, and this is also something where we'll see like how it moves in the coming years, because it's not the end of the road. Yeah.
So I found this to be very encouraging. There was a zeitgeist here of actually calling food out. So when the declaration called out subsidies, I mean, for how long, at least in the US, have subsidies been protected? You can't touch those. The lobbyists, that there's only six meat companies around the world basically that really control the majority of the market, and they get all the subsidies and they create all the damage. Again, according to the World Bank, 10% of the GDP is placed onto the consumer in the form of them paying taxes. I'm not phrasing this right. Let me start again. Sorry, we're pretty tired here. I'm pretty tired. Meat industry puts out 10% cost of externalities, deforestation, high healthcare costs, pandemic risk. And who bears those costs? It's the consumer through taxes. So the true cost accounting of animal protein, which is the majority of the way that we feed people protein now, it's not the only protein on the planet, but it's the majority way that we do it. Those costs are all borne by the consumers. The ones creating the damage actually get to externalize those costs to the tune of 10% of global GDP. It's kind of shocking. So these kind of stats being called out in public, I was very encouraged by this.
Yes, definitely. I think, we tried also to build partnerships with many other stakeholders that work on sustainable food systems in general. We don't want to stay in a little, bubble. We really want to engage with everyone. We know that there was some eagerness even from the FAO and other agencies that are a little bit more conservative, but that also acknowledge simply the science that we cannot continue like that. We cannot eat, have the French or German diet like in the whole world. You can talk about sustainable intensification and other things, but then you just mentioned pandemics and the other things that come after. So biodiversity, of course, I think we should do much more at the CBD also, the biodiversity COP and others. I think it's definitely something encouraging, also to see the WHO, especially around the health aspect, recognizing that it's absolutely not sustainable or healthy, and that it creates massive costs on our food systems, non-communicable diseases, other cancer and other things. So it's definitely something where we need to move, and I'm pretty hopeful also that this health angle will help us also create policies that are more encouraging the consumption of healthier diets, because that was really one of the key topics at this COP.
Yeah, again, I'm encouraged by the fact that people are willing to call these stats out, and the sentiment was very much like, I'm not kidding around, and don't waste my time. I mean, there is that sense of urgency, and it's food, and I'm not going to placate to the masses anymore. We're going to have to talk about it. So I felt that there was that sort of, no, it's time to really call a spade a spade. So I felt good about that. You mentioned the FAO, the Food and Agriculture Organization, the United Nations, and their roadmap to food systems transformation that came out today. Pathway 4, there's a good chance you haven't had a chance to look at it because it's been a busy day for you, but Pathway 4 did talk about alternative proteins.
Not so much. It was a lot about healthy, sustainable diets, but it kind of I think missed the point around the protein diversification part. To be completely honest, there was some interesting elements, etc. But it seemed that you're creating a roadmap, with so many different countries and departments within the FAO, etc. So it's very, very difficult. It's an exercise that is very difficult, and we hope that also the progresses, and I think there will be also updated versions and other things coming in the next months. But I will be honest, that was a little bit kind of downer, that it was not really including as much protein diversification as a key solution, because there is a lot of talk about sustainable intensification, livestock management and other things, but really the one of the key to achieve the Paris Agreement is also to just create environments and subsidies and other things that allow for protein diversification to be taken seriously, whether it's beans or alternative proteins. It doesn't really matter. In any case, it's emitting much less than animal source food. So I was a little bit still cautious with that. I will be reading the report that is, I think, 40 pages or whatever, the first version, a little bit more in detail. But I feel that we should put like protein diversification much more upfront actually in those solutions pathways, because that's the key to achieve the Paris Agreement. One of the keys with the fossil fuel phase out, of course.
So we have many WhatsApp communications going on between lots of people around the world for food systems transformation. And I saw one JPEG of the 5 pathways, and pathway 4 included alternative proteins right there. So I got to read the report. I got to look deeper into the report.
And a lot of diets, healthy, sustainable diets.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got
to get more into the report. Just as we wrap up, I'll say, you've heard me talk about it so much, blended capital. So I've been talking about Wall Street and bringing Wall Street capital in to food systems transformation for so long, and it really did feel good, if you are me in my position, to see finally this idea of blending philosophical philanthropic capital with government capital, with private markets and Wall Street capital and venture capital. So that's been really good to see. And there's an eagerness to find solutions here. I think that's good. So now it's time to see really what happens coming out of COP. So we still have more information to download to you as the weeks come. Do you think there'll be anything new that happens on the last day, which really is tomorrow?
Until the last day of COP, I think, like there will be like still probably announcement, new countries joining in and other interesting things happening. However, I think like the coming months and like the time, between COPs and like the, what happens like at the national level will be crucial. We saw Denmark, having a real strategy to promote more plant-rich, diets and more plant-based foods in general. We see Germany also investing in protein diversification. We saw good examples coming from South Korea and other spaces. So we're really seeing that at the national level now, but I think we're also seeing other countries like going maybe a little bit more the other way and kind of trying to, block the transition for many reasons, of course, that are pretty obvious around like, the economical immediate interest and other things. But I think that, there is really a need now for countries to come up with real strategies of how they can like increase, plant-based foods in their procurement, how they can invest in, plant-based innovation or cultivated. All these things are very, very important. And they won't happen by themselves. Like countries have also to really come forward with plans. We know like the nutrition strategy in Germany took also like some time and like included a lot of very good things. So we're seeing action, but again, we have like over 190 countries and they have all different priorities. Some of them have also like, food security challenges that are completely different from ours. So I think it's very, very important to take a holistic approach, to acknowledge that we won't have the same solution for every country, but that in general, we should shift away and reduce like the consumption of animal sourced foods and promote plant-based innovation and cultivated.
Yes, 100%. I will say the second note before we close out, for me, the term sustainable intensification is complete greenwashing. What do you think?
It's I mean, like it's used of course by like people that do not want to move at all, and like by big ag and big meat a lot. It's definitely something very problematic. Sorry for the coffee machine, but like it is something very problematic because we know that we have also like other ways to like improve nutrition and food security. That there is a lot of space like for legumes, for like increased production of like vegetables and other things. And so like I think it's very much used as a greenwashing tool by like people that really don't want to move away and want to like keep like the system as it is. But we know it's broken and we're going to move away from it. It's going to take a little bit more time, but there's definitely some good encouraging signs. That was one of the concerns of the FAO roadmap, the sustainable intensification. Again, it's very different realities in different regions. For us, food security is the basis of everything, but we also have to like see how we can really enable a true genuine transition towards healthy food systems, healthy sustainable food systems. And sustainable intensification is mostly not like the solution in many of the countries, that's for sure.
Yeah, it won't get you there. And what is good is to know that and I'm quoting Manesh Roy, who's from an international investing network. Food system transformation is the only sector that can reach net zero by 2030. Of course, that would mean we'd have to do things to get there. But the other sectors don't even have that possibility. So it is the low-hanging fruit for having real transformation for the planet in the shortest amount of time. So that is good news. And I think that's the logic that we leave on today, that not only we think, but that others are seeing here as we leave COP28 in Dubai. A last word. You've been all around all the different food courts. What's your favorite plant-based food? Or I don't even have to tell you plant-based because I know you went plant-based. What was your favorite food here at COP?
I think I liked the noodles, the Chinese, the Asian, or Chinese or Japanese noodles. I like the entrance court, but in general, there was a lot of good products, healthy, relatively healthy. Like like it was and affordable. Like I mean, it's always like more expensive at a conference, but I really felt that it was trying to be more inclusive. And yeah, I think overall, I was really impressed by the fact that the quality was there too, and even a simple sandwich was quite often relatively decent. So that's good.
I'm going with plant-based shawarma. I think I have to end on maybe a sad note. This is basically Raphael's last day. He's leaving ProVeg after 6 years of intense dedication, and we are all so grateful. He has done so much work. I wish you weren't leaving, but I wish you also the best.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And I would just like to thank, of course, my great team with Lana, Stephanie, Juliette, and Zoe and Berlin that did a great job. And of course, all the partners of this Food for Climate Pavilion that was there again, and where we were able to engage with so many stakeholders. And I would just encourage everyone to keep the hard work, all the other organizations that have been lobbying in the halls and the main plenaries and the different rooms where you had negotiations, because yeah, it's really about partnership, trying to build alliances. And I think we did a relatively good job in the past years, and hopefully we'll see some real concrete progress in coming years.
Raphael has moved the needle, and it's up to us to keep the pressure on. That's the last word. Over and out from COP28 in Dubai.